Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, I thought that I would do a little prediction video. This is going to be over the UFC card next week, UFC 256. And I don't do this extremely often, but I'm going to be predicting all the five main cards. And by that I mean all the cards on the main event. My bad, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so we're going to be reviewing all of these fights or predicting all of these fights, and then I would talk about them most likely, at least the most important ones, when the event is over. But I'm very excited for this pay-per-view. I think that this is a great card, and let's just get on with it. So the first bout that we have here is Junior Dos Santos versus Cyril Gane, I believe is his name. Very interesting bout. Cyril is sort of new on the block when it comes down to it. As you can see there, or maybe can't, I believe he is ranked number 14 in the heavyweight division. Junior Dos Santos is ranked number 7. Very competitive matchup right here, I think. They actually fight somewhat similarly. They both can be good counter punchers. They both aren't known for throwing really a lot of combinations, but really more 1-2s. Both have a decent amount of power, but when I take a look at it, one just seems to be more in the prime of his career. Junior Dos Santos is a very decent fighter, and he's still within the top 10 for a very good reason. But in this fight, I do have to predict that Cyril Gane will get the win, and I believe he will get the win by knockout. Would I be surprised if it went to decision or went the other way? No, I wouldn't be surprised. This is going to be a big step up in competition, but so far from what I've seen from Cyril Gane, I am very impressed, and I think that'll take it. He has decent power, decent speed, decent athleticism, decent counter-punching ability, decent combinations, although he's not mainly a combination guy. He can throw them when he needs to, especially on the inside. I've been impressed with what I've seen so far. He's also an excellent judger at distance. I think both of them are actually very similar, but when it comes down to it, I believe Cyril Gane is younger than Junior Dos Santos. He certainly is in more of a prime state in his career. So it is what it is. I'm going to go with Cyril Gane by that one by second round TKO, and we'll see what happens. But either way, I'm going with Cyril Gane on that one. So the next bout that we have here is Kevin Holland versus Jacare Souza, also known as Ronaldo Souza. When I've watched Kevin Holland, I've never been overly impressed with him before. Decent grappler, very awkward striker. The ground seems to be where he is at home the best, and I've seen him on the ground with a couple of fighters and still not been overly impressed with him. Jacare Souza may be, overall older. I think he's about 40 years old now, if not possibly over, or maybe a little bit under, somewhere around there. Jacare Souza definitely is an older dog in the division. But when it comes down to it overall, Jacare, I think, will have enough ground game and striking ability, because he does not have bad striking ability, to take out Kevin Holland. Or, well, not take him out, but beat him. Kevin Holland does seem like a very tough guy to stop. Would I be surprised if Jacare Souza stopped them? I wouldn't be surprised. But I think that this is a very big step up in competition for a man that really I don't think is overly talented, and for a man overall that is really not used to fighting fighters like this. We'll see what happens. Jacare Souza's gas tank usually does tend to be a problem, especially at this point in his career after the first round. So we'll see what happens. But my prediction is that Ronaldo Souza wins by decision on this one. So anyway, the next one we have is Renato Moicano versus Rafael Fiziev. This is debatably the hardest one to predict, because Renato Moicano is certainly the more vastly experienced of the two. And Rafael Fiziev, he to me actually seems more talented. When I seen a fight with Rafael Fiziev, he's got very good combinations, very good power, very fast, decent judger of distance. I like the way, that he goes forward. He pushes the pace a lot. He has a decent gas tank. Renato Moicano judges distance decently. But the reason why I'm going to be picking Rafael Fiziev in this fight is because To me, he looks more talented. And when I take a look at it, I want to know how well Renato Moicano is going to, be able to take those punches. And I want to know overall, if his lack of head movement is going to show up again in this fight. Now, Moicano is very lengthy, for that division, for the featherweight division, or, well, this is a lightweight bout, actually, now that I see it, but he used to fight in the featherweight division. Either way, he is very lanky, and I do believe he is going to be more lanky and taller than this guy. He has very long legs. He likes to go to the legs, so if Fiziev does not check those, legs or get to Moicano very early, Moicano could coast himself to a decision. And that's why this is such a great fight. This is the hardest fight for me to predict because, it is reach and experience versus talent and power, in my opinion. And it's interesting because they're going to counter each other quite well. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go with Fiziev on this one. I think by stoppage within the first 2 rounds, could be by decision, but you know what? Let's just see what happens. I think this is a very interesting matchup. I can't wait for that matchup. I'm going to go with Fiziev, and I'm not too comfortable on that one, but that is my prediction, and I'm sticking to it. And really, a lot of these, the last three, I'm not really comfortable predicting, and by that I mean the Dos Santos Gain one, Kevin Holland Souza one, and the Moicano Fiziev one. But it is what it is. Anyway, that brings us to debatably the most well-known fight on this card, debatably, even though it's not the title fight. Tony Ferguson returns against Charles Oliveira. Very good fight. When I seen Tony Ferguson last, when we seen him last, obviously he received a hell of a beating from Justin Gaethje, and we're all just wondering, how is Tony Ferguson's chin going to be? Is he ever going to be the same mentally and physically after that fight? Tony Ferguson is getting up there with age, so we'll have to see just how well he does in this fight. This most likely is a fight that Tony Ferguson should win, because when I take a look at Charles Oliveira, very good fighter, but for a lot of his career, besides his last fight against Kevin Lee, Charles Oliveira was really kind of a gatekeeper. He's lost pretty much almost every big fight in his career, sometimes by knockout, sometimes by decision, sometimes by submission. When it comes down to it, Charles Oliveira is a very tricky fighter. He's extremely talented on the ground, if you know anything about Charles Oliveira, and I believe he's actually became better as a striker. When you take a look at him in his last fight against Kevin Lee, he looked very fast in that fight. The head movement looked better, although he's still not an A-class, movement guy. He's just never going to be. He looked faster. He looked more energized. The movement looked better. The strikes looked more comfortable. They looked more natural and fluid. I gotta say, this is a very good tune-up fight for Tony, because if he loses to Charles Oliveira, not only will that tell us that Charles Oliveira has now, went up to another level, but that'll probably tell us really where Tony Ferguson's at after that beating he took from Justin Gaethje. Will he potentially get a title shot later on down the line? Who knows? But when it comes down to it, we'll just have to see. This is really going to tell us where Tony Ferguson is right now at this point in his career. So we'll see what happens. It's also going to tell us if Charles Oliveira will soon be in title contention, possibly. The lightweight division is probably the most competitive division in all the UFC right now. Debatably, either that weight division or middleweight, in my opinion. But it is what it is. Anyway, I'm predicting Tony Ferguson to win that fight. And the reason why I'm predicting him to win that fight is because I think that he throws more than Charles Oliveira. I think that he is a little bit of a better striker. And if worse came to worse, if it did go to the ground, they both are very good on the ground. Now, in certain areas, you might say Oliveira is more talented than Tony Ferguson on the ground, but Tony Ferguson has been on the ground with some of the best. So I've seen Tony Ferguson handle quite a bit. It's just hard for me to imagine Charles Oliveira outlasting Tony Ferguson in either category or submitting him, which is usually what he likes to do to his opponents when he stops them. And it's hard for me to imagine him knocking Tony out unless Tony was so damaged from that last Justin Gaethje fight that he'll never be the same again, which you never know, he could be. So my prediction, Tony Ferguson by decision, but we'll see what happens. And that leads us to our last fight, the only title fight on this card, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. I've watched both of these gentlemen for quite a while. Brandon Moreno, I've seen him for quite a while, and I always thought he was a good little fighter, very good ground game guy. Not the worst striker in the world, although he always kind of needed to work on that a little bit more. Deiveson Figueiredo, very complete fighter. He does have some holes in his game. Sometimes looks a little bit too much for the counter punch. Sometimes does not throw enough, is open to get hit, but very powerful, very decent striker, has improved as a fighter, and very good ground game as well. My prediction for this fight is that Deiveson Figueiredo is most likely going to stop Brandon Moreno within two. I would not be surprised if Brandon Moreno survives. He is a survivor. He is a very tough kid. But this is a 5-round fight. This is not a 3-round fight. So I have seen Brandon Moreno tire out before, and I have seen him lose a close decision before. I believe it was against Sergio Pettis, but if I'm wrong about that, then I'm wrong about that. Someone correct me, but I know not too long ago he lost a close fight. Maybe it wasn't even that close from what I remember. I can't remember, but either way, the longer this fight goes, I think the more it favors Deiveson Figueiredo. I don't see Brandon Moreno really having the power to knock out Deiveson Figueiredo if he lands one shot, even though Deiveson Figueiredo is open enough to get hit. I think that he would play with fire in there if he really tries to strike with Deiveson Figueiredo the whole time, because Deiveson has that type of power in that division where he can knock you out with one shot. And he's got a very good ground game as well. He can submit you as well. Possibly might even have better ground game than Brandon Moreno. So I just don't see a way where Brandon Moreno really wins this fight. I believe Figueiredo will get him out of there within two. And that's my prediction for those fights. Let me know what you guys think on this. What you guys think on these fights. Who do you think is going to win and why? And that's really about it for today. So my picks are going to be Cyril Gane, Ronaldo Souza, Rafael Fiziev, Tony Ferguson, and Deiveson Figueiredo. We'll see how many I get right and how many I get wrong this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to y'all later.